Hi there, my name is Dr. Christen Blanton Mack, and I'm the instructor of the UNCG Old Time Ensemble. As everybody on campus knows, every course has had to take kind of a non-traditional path to getting from August to November, and the Old Time Ensemble this term was no exception to the rule. So what you're going to see in this performance is our first ever virtual Old Time Ensemble recital. So a lot of the flavor of what you've seen in Old Time Ensemble performances in the past is still the same. We still welcome students from all across UNCG's campus and from our campus community. We represent music majors who are focusing in music education, music performance, music studies. We represent graduate students and undergraduate students. We have a lot of really proud representation this term from students outside of the School of Music. And we are thrilled to be able to still present some music for you here to celebrate the end of the term. The Old Time Ensemble is open to students across our entire campus and our campus community, and we really hope that you will be able to join us live and in person for future recitals and performances, or to enroll in the class as a student. You do not need to take an audition to join the Old Time Ensemble, and you do not need to have any prior experience playing music of any kind, because we all learn and teach and grow together in the Old Time Ensemble. So I really hope that everybody enjoys our first ever virtual performance and recital, and please have a wonderful, wonderful, restful winter break.
Hi, I'm Carly.
I'm Hannah. And I'm Isabel.
And we're the Average Jug Band.
me, get thee behind me, Satan. Travel on down the line. I'm a union man, gonna leave you behind. The company union said I call. Join us in the summer, we'll forget you in the fall. Get thee behind me, Satan. Travel on down the line. I'm a union man, I'm gonna leave you behind. Well, if anyone should ask you your union to sell, tell them where to go, send them back to hell. Get thee behind me, Satan. Travel on down the line. I'm a union man, gonna leave you behind. Woo! That was better. I think that was pretty good. You think that was good?
Hey everybody, welcome to an old time interview, and here we have Jenny Tobiassen, who is my pastor at Home Moravian. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jenny?
Well, I was born here in Winston-Salem and actually spent my childhood right in this neighborhood because my dad was a Moravian pastor, so I'm now living in the house that one of my good friends lived in when I was a child. The church is beyond that house there. I went to high school in Raleigh, and I went to college at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill.
How did you grow up, and
Okay.
like how was music in the household, and did that kind of let you appreciate music throughout your life at all?
Absolutely, because as I just said, I grew up in a Moravian household, and the Moravian Church has a very, very strong musical tradition. So I grew up, my mother played piano and sang. One of my three brothers became a pianist. He majored in piano at Duke and later got a degree in composition. So our family was very musical. My other brothers both played music as well. And I took piano lessons as a child from Eve's dad and others. And played a little bit in the school band, but because the family moves, I had to drop that. So I always, and I sang all through high school. Singing was my main musical form.
Okay. One evening as the sun went down and the jungle fires was burning, and the truck came along with lightning, and so I'm not turning. I'm headed for land that's far away, side crystal fountains. So come with me and we'll go see the big rock candy mountains, and the big rock candy mountains. There's a land that's fair and bright, where handouts grow on bushes, and you sleep out every night, where the rock stars are all empty, and the sun shines every day. The birds and the bees and the cigarette trees, and the lemonade springs where the bluebirds sing. Big rock candy mountains.
So when did you start playing old time music, and how did you learn it?
Well, I should say, had a little, when I was in high school, my oldest brother, who lived in Vermont, sent my parents a record of a contra dance band from New England. At the time, in the South, we hadn't heard contra dance music. And I was utterly captivated with this record. I had never heard anything like it, and I absolutely loved the New England contra dance music, and I guess that was kind of my first exposure to a folk form that had some relationship to old-time music, just the string band form. I went off to Chapel Hill, and I had learned a little bit of clogging at Laurel Ridge Senior High Camp in high school. Went off to Chapel Hill and wound up auditioning for the clogging team, the Applechill Cloggers, and getting a bed on the Applechill Cloggers. And so we danced with an old-time band. We had our own little band that traveled with us usually. So that was my first exposure to old-time music. I didn't know at the time that it was old-time music. I remember somebody asked me, do you dance to old-time or bluegrass? And since I'd never heard of old-time, I said bluegrass. That's just pretty much everybody's journey, I think. And, but I eventually got very, very into the old-time music, and I started learning to play fiddle because I wanted to be able to do something when I was too tired to dance. So when I could no longer stand up, I could still sit down and play the fiddle. And I wanted a small instrument that I could carry around with me. So I chose the fiddle. I started taking lessons from Clay Buckner in Chapel Hill. He was my first teacher. He later became the fiddler for the Red Clay Ramblers. And I also took lessons from a man named Mike Platt, who was a classically trained violinist who later played old time. So those were my first steps at lessons, and that was how I got started.
And this one's a little bit off script, but I noticed that you did, you talked about bluegrass or old time. And so, like, to you, what's, like, that distinction for you?
Well, listen to the banjo first, you know. It's the bluegrass banjo and the old time banjo are your biggest hints. And of course the fiddle has a more percussive sound in old time, shorter chops. Bluegrass has the long runs on the fiddle. It's more about, bluegrass is more about prowess and technique, and everybody gets to show off their licks, where old time is a more community music. It's not for spectators, it's really just for participants or for dancers. So, but that's my quick definition of the difference.
Yeah, that's cool, because we also talk about that. That's like first 1 or 2 weeks. It's like, so like, what's like old time music? And somebody's like, it's kind of like bluegrass, and they're like, a little bit. We're gonna try and stray away. We like bluegrass, but we just don't want to.
It's nice.
Yeah, we're not gonna put them together like that.
Right.
But that's neat. I haven't heard it like outside of old time class yet, so it's nice to know. So do you have like a favorite tune at all, or one that just really?
My favorite tune is always the one that I'm working on at the moment. Like, you know, what's the favorite tune of this week or this month? Because there's just too many to ever have a favorite. For me, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I remember years ago I was at a party with some of the people in the Red Clay Ramblers, and Jack Herrick, who played with that band, he said, you know, when you've played old time music for so many years, the tunes really do start to sound alike, and then it's just really about the names of the tunes. He says, I just learned one last week called Sorry About Your Burnt Leg. And that just really sounded like an old time tune name to me.
Yeah.
But I think there's always a new tune to learn. Tunes have changed a lot since I first started playing, because this was the 1970s when I first started playing. And the music has changed a lot. They're doing a lot more interesting things with sort of the new tunes, and I enjoy that a lot. I enjoy a nice, challenging tune.
I have two little offshoot questions about that. So you said you started learning in the 1970s, and
it was 78 probably.
Yeah. So from my limited knowledge of like old time history, isn't the 70s like around like the new revival of old time music?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
So kind of just like resurged there, and you were kind of part of the wave of like got swept up.
Probably. You may have heard the word New Yorkabillies. It's like the people in, say, the Northeast who started sort of rediscovering and playing old-time music. Some of those bands I met people in because of the circles that I ran in, like the Hot Mud Family. I never met anybody from the Highwood String Band, but if you ever hear the name Highwood String Band, to me that's kind of, that's the starting point for the revival. That's what... everybody who plays old-time music eventually acquires an album by the Highwood String Band.
That's neat.
So, yeah, that's... And you can recognize it. As soon as you hear it, I have a CD that somebody gave me at a different band, and I was listening to it, I thought, man, that sounds just like Highwoods, and then I found out one of the fiddlers was a Highwoods fiddler, so, you know,
gotcha.
it's a recognizable sound.
So, another little offshoot question, where do you, like, get your new old-time tunes that you want to learn?
These days, just from jam sessions. I don't really listen to CDs too much. I used to listen to CDs, and well, no, I used to listen to records all the time. When I was first playing, I just played a lot of bands on records and learned tunes from them. But pretty much only in jams, or I'll try to get the sheet music now, because it's so much easier to have that than to learn a tune by ear. But it's mostly ear learning. So
Yeah.
It's mostly, you know, somebody will play something in a jam, and I'll maybe record it on my phone and take it home and work on it.
Yeah. talked about going to jam sessions and stuff, and that's how you learn your tunes. What kind of jam sessions and community stuff would you usually go to?
Well, until the pandemic hit, Bill and I had been going to a jam at Fiddle and Fish Brewery, which was started by one very committed couple who, who wanted to, that really committed to old time music and to getting a jam going, Ken and Noryan Bennett from Wake Forest. And they managed to, put the jam together. They had a friend named Bruno Lecharn, who taught at the School of the Arts. And he was a wonderful fiddler, and together they kind of really got this jam going. Another guy named William Ritter was involved with that. And we played every Monday night, and it was wonderful. And we had to stop doing it. We still get together with a small group, counting me and my husband, it's 5 people, outside. Yeah. So we've been trying to play some. When I was actually, the way I really learned, when I was in college, I was in a jam with a bunch of other women, because most of us were dating or married to men who played old time, and we were intimidated by trying to get in on their jams because we were all just learning, and some of them were real professionals. And so we made our own little jam, and we called it the Monday Night String Band, and that was, what we did on Monday nights. Later we made it a band called Sail Away Ladies, which was pretty cool. Helen White, who was a pretty well-known fiddler, she was part of that group. And so that was my first jam, and that was where I learned a whole lot of my music.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, because that's actually, you did like a little Facebook journey through old time music.
Yeah, one of
that's
my
what
friends
made me
put
think
me
about
on
this.
that, 10 pictures from your performing career, and since my performing career was mostly Apple Joe cloggers and occasionally playing with a band, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that was really neat, because I knew that you like fiddled and stuff, but I didn't know how far back it went, and then I saw that picture on Facebook.
It pretty much defined my college years. That was the main thing I did besides go to class in college was dance and play fiddle.
And so this one is actually a pretty good transition. Do you have any like favorite memories of jamming or making music with people?
I should have tried to think of an answer to this question. When you sent me that question, I thought, wow, I'm not sure I could name one. Yeah, I'll tell you the moment that stands out, and this is not so much fiddling. This is I had 2 really good friends, Deborah Jean Sheets and Gay Gingrich, who were excellent singers, and the 3 of us would sometimes sing as a trio. And it was a Christmas performance that we did at the Mast Farm Inn in Valley Cruces, and it's like a bed and breakfast, and it only had some room for so many people, and it was packed. People were sitting on the stairs, people were sitting everywhere, and it was just the 3 of us singing. And I played some fiddle, and they played guitar and banjo, but it was just like, that was a magical night, and I will never forget it. And it was just that music when everything is perfect, and your audience is on the edge of their seats. So I do remember that.
That's nice.
But also just playing with playing at the Eno River. We used to do that in the summertime. There would be a big Eno River festival, and I got to play that with my Sail Away Ladies band. I don't know. I'd have to give it more thought. I'm sure I have some other favorites, but it's my favorite way to live.
1, 2, ready,
But black is the color of my true love's hair. Her face is something wondrous fair, the prettiest eyes and the neatest hands. I love the ground whereon she stands. I love my love, and Lord she knows. I love the ground whereon she goes. If you on earth know This is something wondrous fair, the prettiest eyes and the neatest hands. I love the ground whereon she stands. That was good.
So speaking of, does your husband participate in old time music?
Yes, he absolutely does. We met at a dance, a square dance. And then that night, he was at a party that I went to after the dance, and he was playing guitar and I was playing fiddle. So yes, we have always played music together. Well, always is an exaggeration, because after we got married, then I had a baby, and so for like 20 years I didn't play, because it just eats up your life that much. But I actually stopped playing for a long time, and I only started playing again regularly in 2012. So yeah, so I've played more. We play every day. We play almost every day after breakfast and after supper, so twice a day. We started doing that in 2012, and so I have played more in the last 8 years than I ever played in the rest of my life. And
That's so
it's
fun.
amazing. Practice actually makes a difference. If for Mr. Salswadel, if I had practiced piano like I practiced my fiddle, I might have gotten somewhere. So. Wasted youth.
And you talked about it a little bit, but you said that you kind of got your start with dancing. So how'd you get to dancing? You talked about it a little bit, and how does it relate to like your relationship with old time music?
Well, I always enjoyed folk dancing. When I was in high school, I used to do international folk dancing, and then I went to summer camp, and Jeff Whitsitt was actually teaching clogging as an interest group, so I took that. And then when I was at Chapel Hill, they had a weekly clogging thing, and I would go to that, and one day they advertised for new members, so I tried out, and I got on the team. And man, it's all I ever wanted to do. And so, like I said, the music was part of that. It's all of a piece, and I just wanted to be able to play as well as dance. So.
And that clogging group was like, you went like on little tours and like went out and did stuff?
We were somewhere, every other weekend probably, and on spring break we'd go places, and in the summer we'd go places, and went to Ireland. They went to Europe just about every summer, but I only got to do it once, but I did go to Ireland. I went to the Philadelphia Folk Festival. Favorite dance memories might be dancing on stage at the Philadelphia Folk Festival in 1979. So yeah, it was, we traveled a lot, and I loved it. I really did.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I tell everybody, when you go off to college, get in a performing group, because you will see the world, and you'll always know who your friends are, and it's just great. It's a great way to live.
That's so neat. So with being in the current like age that we are, a lot of people are kind of reanalyzing our priorities in old time music, more specifically with stuff like murder ballads and like the glorification of domestic abuse and stuff like that. So what place in society do you think that these kind of hold for old time music?
Well, I always say that the traditional ballads were about the two things that people care most about: love and death, and usually in the same song. I thought a lot, when I saw that question, I thought a lot about it. Maybe my knowledge of ballads is not that wide. I don't know that many of them. But the ones I know, the murder ballads I know, I don't see the violence as glorified.
Okay.
I think it's just a way of telling a story. The guy who kills the woman is never a good guy. He's never held up as an example for our behavior, and in fact, in some of the ballads it'll talk about, like Willow Garden. Willow Garden? He talks about how he murdered his own true love, and you do have to say that's a pretty strange thing to do to your own true love, but again, they're not glorified for it. And the end of it says, he talks about his father is standing on his porch watching him, or standing at his house watching him go to be hanged. And the last words of the song are, "My race is run beneath the sun, and hell now waits for me. For I did murder that pretty little miss, whose name was Rose Connolly." I mean, when you're saying hell waits for me, that's not glorifying abuse. That's saying you're going to suffer. So I see them as violent, but I think that's because people are talking about what's important to them, and death is something that, you know, is marked as, look, this trauma happened, and the story goes on.
Well, similar to the last question, there are also songs that are being reevaluated because of their relationship to, like, minstrelsy and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I would say that's a whole different picture, because, and Bill and I talk about this a lot, we both came to old-time music in our 20s, and, you know, as a 19-year-old college student, I'm like, oh, these songs are funny because everybody knows nobody thinks that way anymore, so we can just sing them, you know, with the original words. And, you know, I look back at that and I think, geez, I was an ignorant teenager, but we were all ignorant. I would never sing those words anymore, and I think it's possible to save the music, but I think you have to remove that heritage from it. It's not over. It's not kitschy and fun. It's a nasty reminder of what we thought was okay to say.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Noryan of the Old Time Ensemble. So I specifically chose La Llorona because I wanted to be unique in my own way. Everyone else who chose their own tune to bring in was unique, but I wanted to bring in sort of my own flair to it, and my flair was introducing my culture, because in old time, folk songs would count as old time music. So I decided to bring in La Llorona, and La Llorona is just this wonderful piece of Mexican folk music that many artists have covered, from like different styles, from newish pop to old mariachi. I certainly wanted to do my own sort of take on it, especially combining old time techniques. And I guess you'll see the banjo. The story behind La Llorona is a woman who was married to a rich landowner. The rich landowner decided to cheat on the woman who would become La Llorona, and she goes on to drown her 2 children in retaliation, but she ended up feeling guilty that she killed her own flesh and blood, and decided to drown herself in hopes to be reunited with her kids. But unfortunately, she now haunts rivers, bodies of water, to try to find her children so that she could return. And this is a story that I grew up with since I was very little, alongside other things like the chupacabra and things like that. The whole song itself isn't told by her perspective or about her. It's more of someone singing out to her, like, with pain. And if you know Spanish, you'd be able to understand, I guess, the story. La Llorona is actually made up of, like, multiple verses, but we condensed it down to 4. The reason I chose a Spanish song was both selfish and unselfish at the same time. I wanted to share my culture, and I also wanted to, like, feel better singing it, because while people tell me I have a great voice, I feel like my voice is more powerful when it's in Spanish, and I guess the words to La Llorona don't make sense unless it's in Spanish, because it's La Llorona, and I had to incorporate that.
That one is, this is German spruce, and that's Carpathian spruce. This one is red spruce, which is a local spruce. And that's cedar. This is cedar you buy right out of the lumberyard, Engelman spruce. And then, see, I've got these backs. Yellow heart and maple, which is a typical back for a mandolin. And there's a bloodwood. And that's going to be a pretty one. That'll shine. Yeah, that's nice. That's renge. But anyway, so I've just been making parts for stuff. I'll show you some of the mandolin necks I have. They're kind of scattered all over the place. My shop does not usually look like this.
That's true. See, he had to cover up all the, he was working on some necks over here, and he had to cover all that up so he could work on.
So there's a mandolin neck. Well, these are just mandolins. I also have 4 guitars under construction with different varying parts of them scattered about. But let's go in the house and show you this.
Use a little work.
So he made all of those mandolins except the one that says Gibson on it, which I don't know where it is.
Can you show me?
Oh, there it is.
And then a number more of them too. I've given away a number of mandolins. One to each of my brothers and one for my nephew. And John Hartman has one. And actually, John Hartman has 2.
And one of those, how many of those guitars do you still have that are made with home church pews? I know the black
Oh, I've got 3 that are made exclusively out of home church pews. This guitar and that guitar are made exclusively. This guitar is 100% except for the bridge. I used to have a well, now the soundboard is a piece of spruce, but everything else in this guitar came from the pews, the old chapel pews.
That's awesome.
At home church.
I love the back of this too.
Yeah,
it's like that. That's like my main instrument. I can't fiddle on it yet. I can't fiddle on it yet, but we're working on it.
Alright, so Gabe wanted to play Spotted Pony. You set the tempo, I'll make sure.
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay.
You go for it. walk around to like we have a lot of like beginning guitar.
Yeah.
So it's just like boom cha. We just kind of stick to what we
And
know.
that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's okay too. Until you get, a lot of times, like, sometimes when we play together, he plays guitar. Sometimes he plays mandolin. And I try to save certain A tunes for when he's playing mandolin, because if you're playing guitar, it's like your chord is A all the way through. You just play A. And I feel like that must get really boring for a guitar player. But some guitar players, that's when they'll really do a lot of walking on the bass, and it's interesting for them.
Yeah. Keep themselves occupied.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you want to do one more together so we can find one?
What do you have?
He plays Black Eyed Susie, but I don't play that one very well.
Is that Over the Waterfall?
The one with the C in it? That sounds like Liberty.
I play Liberty. Do you know Liberty?
Over the Waterfall is,
Oh!
that's the one that has that C.
Oh.
That's kind of, there's like a whole cluster of D tunes that have a C chord in them. It's like, that's it. Play that one?
Yeah. I might drop out at the B section for a second.
down in the valley. Gonna meet my mama down in the valley. Gonna meet my mama down in the valley, way beyond the blue. Gonna meet my father down in the valley. Gonna meet my father down in the valley. Gonna meet my father down in the valley, way beyond the blue. That was better. Certainly better. I think it's partially because my hands are starting